Earthworm Jim, we think he's mighty fine. Earthworm
Except this is
Jim.
Game Gear Earthworm Jim.
Oh no. What's different compared to regular Earthworm Jim? Is it any easier or less
No,
aggravating?
this is actually even worse.
Oh no.
You know down the tube section that's borderline impossible?
Yes, I hate it.
Yes, well, that section in this game doesn't let you know what direction your sub thing is pointing at.
Oh. Wow. You're dead already. That was quick. Okay, so I tried to play Earthworm Jim at one point in my life. I regret it.
Well, I mean,
immensely.
I understand why you would have an appeal for it, just because it has a very surrealist animation charm to it.
Yes, it looks like a proper cartoon character with very expressive faces and animations and a sense of humor to it. Also, the cartoon was really funny.
Yeah, I
me.
agree. I loved it as a kid, though I don't know how well it's aged.
I think it's aged about as well as the Freakazoid show, so very well.
They were one right after another, so I mean...
Yes, they were broadcast in the same channel. In fact, there was even a joke in Freakazoid in which they referenced the Earthworm Jim show.
Really? Because
Yes.
I know they weren't done by the same company. They just happened to be like one time slot away from each other.
Well, they were in the same channel, as I said, so there was a bit of interspersed meta-comedy in there. There was a joke about the narrator of the Freakazoid show being threatened to be replaced by the narrator in Earthworm Jim. So that was the joke. That was the reference.
Gotcha.
One of my favorite gags in the Earthworm Jim cartoon was the generic precedent that's used to essentially prevent a show from aging. And there is the Crow guy. What's his name again? Psychro. And there is this one line of Psychro in that episode that has stuck with me ever since I watched it the first time. And it was such a simple line, but the delivery was so good that it became comedy gold in my head. Give me the entire United States and whatnot. And it's amazing. It's stuck with me. And that is why I keep saying whatnot and whatnot at the end of sentences. It's because of that line.
Let's see, I actually really liked Earthworm Jim as a kid. Specifically the, whatchamacallit. I did watch the cartoon a bit. I own both of the games. I actually beat Earthworm Jim 1, which I still have no freaking idea how I managed that as a kid. That's just way too much free time spent on that game, I guess, because holy crap, it's impossible.
It's hard.
Yeah. Not only that, but I would, like, basically do it almost completely without using the gun, because I would conserve, like, my ammo unless I absolutely had to, so I was basically playing the game entirely with the whip.
That's insanity.
Yeah, that's how I rolled.
But, you know, I really like about Earthworm Jim is that it has quite a recognizable gallery of rogues that they all get to shine in the cartoon as well. Like Evil the Cat might be one of my favorites.
In Heck.
In Heck. And there is that goldfish in a mechanical. Goldfish. Yes, which is very similar to a villain from the Sam and Max comic.
Oh, I freaking love how they deal with him in, what is it, Earthworm Jim 2. So, he's basically the first level boss, except they have this entire, like, big build-up with, like, various layers of peeling away to reveal, Bob the Goldfish, and you just see the woods fight appear on the screen, and Jim just reaches in and eats him.
Yes. Okay, so I never understood what was the joke, the running joke about launching the cow other than the fact that the game did it, but there was constantly a cow landing on people in the cartoon because the game did it.
Basically, that was, yeah, them. Okay, so in the game it was kind of funny. So, in the game, like, one of the first
things... The joke makes sense in the game because there is a setup and a long-term payoff.
Yeah, so, basically, in the original game, obviously not this shitty Game Gear version, but, one of the first things you do is launch this cow. Basically, occasionally throughout the adventure, you would see it kind of soaring through space or whatnot, and, you know, basically see that it's still on its trajectory. So, you kind of forget about it until you get to the ending, where literally you rescue Princess What's-Her-Name, yes, that's really what we call her, and just as, Jim is doing the whole, like, you know, cartoon Aruga, you know, type thing. Especially they even do like the wolf face and everything. Yes,
Tech Savory had a big revival in the 90s for all the worst reasons, but yes.
So basically, as soon as he's ready to, you know, kind of work his mojo, Cal lands on Princess, and then you know it seems just basically like a puddle. So he's just looking around like all dejected. You know, he walks off screen. Then he like comes back on screen, looks like sneakily. Grabs the crown and just runs away with
it. Yes. Okay, look, in a period of time in which every mascot video game character was A, made in Japan, and B, trying to be cool like Sonic, having an attitude, Earthworm Jim was being true to its nature and just being a silly, zany cartoon character of Tex Avery quality, so to speak. And yes,
that was fine for what it was at the time.
The game is really unfairly hard and all that, but luckily there is the cartoon, and the cartoon does not require for you to beat a level to enjoy, so you can get the best of the franchise just by watching the cartoon. Fun fact, Earthworm Jim was one of the surprisingly many shows whose last episode was a Christmas special.
I honestly don't remember remember much about Earthworm Jim's, like, last episode. Like, okay, so the last time I saw it, was back, actually I happened to stumble across some VHSs of it, when my brother was little, like just somewhere at like a local store, so I ended up watching like a couple like random episodes off of there. But like everything else is from back when it originally aired. Like I would actually buy this show on freaking DVD if I could.
Well, there are other ways. This show can definitely be found online if there are no more savory available options. In fact, I would suggest almost to go on a nostalgia trip and find the episodes, watching them again, and then do a podcast about them. Mostly because, why not? It's a show that I myself have not seen in a while, and it would be fun to discuss it more thoroughly.
It probably would, because I remember liking Earthworm Jim more than Freakazoid when it was on the air. And I know Freakazoid is funny. I watched it later
Freakazoid has a bit more, I don't want to say intellectual humor, but its various references and metatextual jokes might fly over the head of a younger audience.
Yes. I guess Earthworm Jim's humor was simpler, if that made sense.
But also delightfully zany. It's definitely on par with what was the typical humor of a Warner Bros. Produced cartoon comedy, such as Animaniacs or Pinky and the Brain.
Like, honestly, it probably is one of the better cartoons from the 90s, if memory serves.
You know, the 90s, it's the period of time in which we grew up, so of course we would be inclined to believe that the 90s were amazing as far as the shows we grew up with. But no, the truth is that a lot of these shows have not aged well. But then again, there are a lot of more shows from the 90s that have not only withstood the test of time, but also are generally considered all-time classics.
But
yes?
my point was that for a show that no one remembers, it might actually stand up better than a lot of others of its contemporaries.
Yes, it's sadly a bit underrated. But like I said, there is this one line from Psychro that has stuck with me ever since. I cannot get it out of my head. It just makes me snicker and giggle every time I think about it. Give me the entire United States and whatnot. Ah, sweet.
Let's see, it's better than, some of the other stuff that was on the air at the time. Like, I unfortunately decided to revisit the Darkstalkers cartoon. That was a mistake. That was a mistake.
Oh, no. That's the worst that the 90s has to offer.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway. So yes, Earthworm Jim. I don't know if you can find this show on DVD, but there are other ways to find it. It's definitely possible to see it. Probably less possible to legally own it, though.
Probably.
But I think it's worth the quote-unquote inexistent risk.
Of someone actually, coming to your house and beating you up over owning an illegal copy of Earthworm Jim. Of getting arrested by the police. The cartoon police.
The cartoon police. Oh, I would love to meet the weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, or were they ferrets? No, I think they were weasels. The weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. No, they were mistakenly translated in Italy as ferrets.
Really?
But yes,
they were meant to be weasels.
They are definitely meant to be cartoon weasels. So because they are weasels, get it? Yes, I would love to meet the weasels from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, although most of them are actually canonically dead. They're all dead, come to think of it. Although only one of them is permanently destroyed.
Oh, they have anti-asteroids in this version? I completely forgot. Where you have to race Psychro to the end.
Oh, this is what I hated the most. So here I am, managing somehow to beat a pretty difficult and challenging level, and then I have to do this race, and if I lose this race, I have to fight Psychro.
Because not easy.
Which, I still don't know how am I supposed to fight Psychro in the conditions I've been given.
Dang, I just died. Yay.
Swell. Earthworm Jim. Earthworm Jim.
A super suit did fall. God damn it!
I don't remember that part of the lyrics.
I do.
Earthworm Jim. We think he's mighty fine. Earthworm Jim, a hero for all time.
Oh,
Earthworm, Earthworm Jim. Hooray for Jim!
God damn it.
Speaking of songs that remain stuck in your brain.
Obviously.
Oh, speaking of underrated shows, did you know that I have the complete DVD set of Count Daccula?
It does not surprise me. I knew you were quite a fan of that show.
Yes, it was, growing up, definitely one of my favorite shows. As an adult, I can appreciate more the wordplay and British sense of humor of the show,
I don't think it was on TV in my area when I was growing up.
You see, Count Daccula had a run in my country, but ironically not the show it originated from, which is Danger Mouse.
I don't know Danger Mouse.
Count Daccula is the Darkwing Duck to Danger Mouse's DuckTales.
Okay.
to give you an analogy. Speaking of DuckTales, I don't think you've been following or watching the new one, are you?
No. I don't really have much interest.
Well, I have, because, as you know, DuckTales, woohoo.
I didn't even like DuckTales growing up.
First of all, you are an uncultured swine, as always.
I like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I thought DuckTales was boring in comparison.
They are basically shows from the same time and with the same tone.
I know that now, but you have to understand, little kid.
I inherently prefer the DuckTales because, hey, all these Duck characters I know because I read the comics.
Oh yeah, we didn't get the I mean, we might have gotten the comics here, but I didn't have the comics, so...
Don't be idiotic, Ross. Of course you get the comics. Uncle Scrooge was written and drawn by Carl Barks.
Yes, okay, yes. It was made here, but I didn't have any experience with it growing up.
Okay, so my original point that I was going to try and make is that there is a new episode of DuckTales which revealed a Darkwing Duck cameo.
Oh, that's
which,
nice.
Darkwing Duck, I've always liked that show a little more than DuckTales. Mostly because DuckTales was, as good as it is, it's still a show from 1987, which means it doesn't quite have the same edge in terms of humor than shows from the early 90s would end up being granted, such as Darkwing Duck.
Correct.
So Darkwing Duck was always my favorite of the two shows, and I inherently enjoyed the idea of these two shows basically living in a shared universe.
Okay.
You could have Launchpad McQuack in both in DuckTales. Okay, so in the Italian version, I'm going to clear this up. In the Italian version, Launchpad was named Jet McQuack.
Oh wow!
So it's a simplified version. We do not speak English, so it's an easy name to remember as if you're a kid. So Jet McQuack it is.
Also, I'm dying in heck. This should amuse you.
You are blaspheme, so. So as I was saying, Launchpad. You could have Launchpad both on Darkwing Duck and DuckTales, and occasionally even Gizmo Duck shows up. So there is this new episode of DuckTales in which both Darkwing Duck and Gizmo Duck show up at the same time. Well, not exactly at the same time, in the same episode. But there is a small difference that really bemuses me. Darkwing Duck in the canon of the new DuckTales is a TV show within the TV show, so it's a metafictional character rather than a character that exists in the same universe, which displeases me already, because...
That means Darkwing Duck isn't real!
Essentially, yes. But Gizmo Duck, instead, is actually canonically existing in DuckTales, not as a TV show within the TV show. So I don't understand this very arbitrary choice, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really like the new DuckTales all that much. I have some gripes with it that are more rational and even legitimate criticism concerning the pacing or how the order in which the episodes were aired, which really helped me getting not invested at all in the characters. Also, they promised to have Donald Duck as a main character, but he's used barely at all, which already kind of makes me a bit displeased and all that. But I also was forced to come to the realization that this show really isn't bad, but it's not my DuckTales.
Gotcha.
And that's okay. That's part of growing.
At least it's better than seeing through 13 episodes of Darkstalkers, the animated series.
If they were to do a reboot of Darkstalkers, the animated series nowadays, I can guarantee you nobody would have a problem with that. Unlike Thundercats, and the less I say about that quote-unquote discourse, the better. But regardless, this new DuckTales is not my DuckTales, and that is okay. It's part of growing up, you know, accepting the fact that tastes change and cartoons are made with new audiences in mind. Yes, even reboots, especially reboots. Otherwise, there is no point in remaking them.
Oh, here's a fun fact. In my region, Batman the Animated Series and Darkwing Duck were aired at the exact same time slot.
Well, that's neat.
So, basically, you had to choose which one you watched.
Darkwing Duck, all the way.
I chose Batman the Animated Series.
I prefer Darkwing Duck, not just as a show, but conceptually as a hero. More levity and silliness, but still holding true to one's own values without becoming the Batman.
The Batman! Pretty obvious parody of Batman, though.
Well, more than a parody of Batman, it's more of a homage to early pulp comic book heroes, the same kind that inspired Batman.
Like the Phantom, I gotcha.
Yes,
or the Shadow.
Phantom. I am the terror that flaps in the night!
Yes.